In this video, I'll be talking about reproduction and hormones. I'll be making two parts to to this series of hormones and reproduction. This one will just be kind of introducing hormones and reproduction, bringing out the basics around this concept, and then the next one will go into the menstrual cycle, which is the more complicated process that you may need to know in this topic. So in my previous videos, I covered. This is, by the way, this is your endocrine system. So where all the hormones are made. In this series, I've already covered what happens in the islets of Langerhans. I've made a video on thyroid gland, pituitary gland, pineal gland, and all the hormones that are made there, and what their process is in hormones and reproduction. But in this video, we'll obviously be covering now the hormone glands of the ovary and the testes. Um, so first off, let's start off with the basics. So we have a man and a woman here, right? Now, do you know what gametes are, or gametes? So if you haven't heard of this, gametes are basically the things that are made that a man and a woman makes that allows reproduction to happen. So you might be able to have a guess at this. So for a man, that would be sperm, and for a woman, that would be egg, because these are the things that allow reproduction to happen. They are basically these sex cells. You can think of gametes as these sex cells. And when they meet, obviously life can now happen. You can make life. So the man makes sperm, woman makes the egg. It's not a real egg, just using it for you to be able to remember. So man makes eggs, woman makes eggs, man makes sperm. Okay. Do you know where these are made in the where's sperm made in the male and where's egg made in the female? So specifically where they're made, like we just saw here, for the female, the ovary will take care of making that, and the testes will take care of making that in the male. So these are the sex organs, and they're responsible for making these sex cells. So the female, that is oversized, but just ignore it. So the testes. Now, like I said, when these two meet, when they come together eventually, life will happen. Do you know how they come together? So I'll just show a brief little cycle using this image right here of how they meet up. There's no science behind this, just to really show the pathway. So as we all know, the baby grows in the female genitalia, not in the males, right? So, but the male sperm is needed. So basically the egg is made in here. This part right here is called the ovaries. So this is where the egg is made. That's a specific section. So eventually it will be made, and then hormones will cause the egg to be released. Now this egg will then travel through this fallopian tube, this pipe right here, and eventually keep going, keep going, keep going. And eventually it will reach here. If in that month no sperm entered here, then obviously no baby can be made. And so the period for the woman would happen. This is part of the menstrual cycle. And so the egg would leave. So every month a new egg would be made until eventually a sperm does happen to get in. When the sperm gets in, it will travel up here into the uterus and then through here and eventually meet the egg. They will meet up and they will travel into here, where life will now start to happen. They will start growing a cell, embryo, fetus, and so on until a baby is officially made. So that's basically how life is made. It's in basic terms. So if you can remember that sort of steps briefly, that will be useful. Now, other than making these sex cells, what do you think is made in these? What do you think the purpose is of these organs? What else do you think they do? What else do you think the testes does? And what else do you think the female genitalia does? What do you think they actually do? So they have two other functions. Reproduction, we know, that's the one we just talked about. And another one is sexual development. So a man, a boy, wouldn't be able to turn into a man without his testes, because his testes make hormones that allow him to develop into a man. A female, a girl, a little girl, would not be able to turn into a woman without her ovaries, because they make the hormones that allow female, a female to be a woman to be made. Okay, so it's also part of developing you, allowing you to develop sexually. Now, say yes, like we said, say the egg and the sperm do meet. What do you think? Do you think the doctors are able to tell after a week after they met if the parents would have a boy or a girl just by looking, just by taking an ultrasound? Do you think they'll be able to do that? Well, the answer is no. They can't do that. It's too soon. Everything there's no you can't officially see just by looking if it's a boy or a girl yet. So what do you think they do um to be able to let the parents know if it's going to be a boy or a girl? So what they do is they take something called a karyotype. A karyotype is basically the scientists, they go in here, they take a sample of DNA of the baby that is growing, and then they make a sort of graph out of it. They take all your DNA and present them in a karyotype. These are two separate karyotypes, okay? This is one, this is the other. So they will take your DNA, because we know these are chromosomes. Chromosomes are basically hold your DNA for your body of who you are. So all of these can have different functions. One can be like eye color, height, all of those things. All of these things have different traits that they hold. Now, this thing does show whether it will be a boy or a girl. Can you tell how? So we know humans have 46 chromosomes. So you can see here that's 23 pairs. 1, 2, 3, all the way down 22, and this is the 23rd pair. Okay? So they have 23 pairs, but this last pair seems to be quite different, right? So that is true because these last two chromosomes are part of telling you if you're a boy or a girl. So do you think this one is a boy or a girl? Or this one is a boy or a girl? So this one is a boy because it has both an X and a Y chromosome. This one is a girl because it has two X chromosomes, X and X. Okay? So if you do see a karyotype on an exam, you just look and they tell you if there's a boy or a girl, go to the last chromosome, chromosome 20, like the last pair, 23, and just see if this happens to be a boy or a girl. Do you see two X's, you know it's a girl. If you see an X and a Y, you know it's a boy. The Y is what makes it a male. In this case right here, you can see, in both cases actually, on 21, there are 3 chromosomes. Why is that? Everything else has 2. This is because this is not a normal boy, not a normal girl, and this is not a normal boy. They have an extra chromosome on 21, and this is called trisomy 21. So this causes you to be autistic. You have a problem because you have an extra chromosome. So a normal being would only have 2 chromosomes on 21. So having an extra one means that you're not officially normal. Medically, you're not normal. Okay, so remember, see if you can at least remember the boy and the girl. How to be able to tell that. Now I want to move on to the next concept. So how can you basically when the sperm and the egg meet up, nothing is there yet, right? Nothing officially started to happen yet, right when they meet. So your body, when the egg and the sperm meet, they're going to turn that piece of nothingness. So I like to think of this as a blank paper. There's a blank paper and you're going to make a human being out of it. So at first it's undifferentiated. That scientific word means it hasn't become anything yet. It's undifferentiated. And it will try and become differentiated. So this blank piece of paper is going to try and become a human being, okay? But each different part of this blank paper is going to become a different thing, right? So I think of differentiated as like specialized. So each different part is going to specialize into one specific function. This part here may become a head. Then this part here will become your neck, right? And so on. So you could get your arms, and all of those things come from undifferentiated tissue. So not having a specific function yet into something that has a specific function. An arm can't be a leg, right? And a leg can't be a head. Like, they have specific functions. So what I'm trying to get at, you'll see just now with this, is all of these undifferentiated things come to be something specific. Even with your head is just not a head. On the head, there's specific parts that will become something. This will become your eye, this will become your hair. So all of these undifferentiated tissues become differentiated, become something specific. So that's the hair. Now, if you think about this in terms of reproduction, what decides what your private area will turn into? What decides if it will become a man or a woman? Genitalia. So the key is something called Sry gene. Where do you think the Sry gene is found on your karyotype? We just looked at the karyotype, right? So this is a man, this is a female. Where do you think the Sry gene is found? It's found on chromosome Y, right? Because that's the male chromosome. So this one will be found on Y. And basically, if the Y chromosome is present, it means the Sry gene is present. And this gene will tell your body to make a male genitalia. Okay, so you'll become a male. So just remember, Sry gene present will cause your genitalia, a male to be formed. If Sry gene is not present, it just means there are two X chromosomes, which means you'll become a female. Okay, so just remember the Sry gene found on the Y chromosome will allow you to become a male. This gene, I think of that as like sorry. There's no specific reason why, but just if you don't remember it, just remember Sry, sorry, the Sry gene. Okay? Now, next time I will continue to talk specifically about males' hormones and reproduction and female hormones reproduction in a bit more detail. And then I'll make another video on the menstrual cycle with some IB questions explained.